A woman was held inside a Hong Kong apartment for weeks. Neighbors heard things. People came and went from the home, and no one called police. Until a little girl walked into a station holding a Hello Kitty doll and said there was a woman inside it. This is not just a murder case. This is a case of prolonged captivity, torture, humiliation, and the terrifying reality of how invisible a person can become before the world notices they're gone. This is the case of Fan Man-yee. Before we begin, I will be saying Fan Man-yee's name. However, for the people responsible for this crime, I may use simpler names or avoid saying certain names entirely. Some names are difficult for me to pronounce clearly, and I want the focus to remain on Fan and what she endured. So if you hear alternative names or fewer names mentioned, that is intentional. This case involves prolonged torture, sexual violence, psychological abuse, and death. I will describe what happened because the truth matters, but I will not include every explicit detail in order to keep this video respectful and platform safe. If this topic is too heavy for you, please take care of yourself and click off now. With that said, let's begin. This case is documented through Hong Kong court records, investigative journalism, and trial coverage. I will focus on the consistent timeline supported across sources. Fan Man-yee was 23 years old in 1999. Her life had been unstable for years. She struggled with addiction, had a history of homelessness, and survived through sex work. She moved between people, places, and situations that were not safe. She was vulnerable, and the people who crossed her path knew it. In March 1999, Fan encountered a man she had previous dealings with. He claimed she owed him money. He invited her to an apartment to settle it. She went with him. Inside that apartment were two other men. Fan did not leave that apartment for weeks. At first, she was threatened and intimidated. Then she was beaten. Then the abuse became something far more disturbing. She was forced to stay inside a small room, denied freedom, denied proper food, denied rest. She was humiliated repeatedly. The men treated her like entertainment, bringing others to watch, to participate, to laugh. Days turned into a routine of cruelty. Fan's body began to weaken. She became thinner, slower, quieter. Neighbors later reported hearing noises from the apartment, strange sounds, shouting, movement at odd hours, but no one called police. People came in and out of that home while Fan was still inside, and the abuse kept escalating. The men reportedly began treating the situation like a game, pushing limits, seeing how far they could go, assuming no one would ever find out. By April, Fan's body could no longer endure what had been done to her. She died inside that apartment, but what happened after her death is what made this case infamous across Hong Kong. In an attempt to hide the crime, the men dismembered her body. Parts were discarded, parts were hidden. Her skull was placed inside a large Hello Kitty mermaid doll and sewn shut. They believed they had erased her, but they forgot about a child. One of the men's young daughters began having nightmares. She told her father she kept seeing a woman inside the doll. She became frightened of it. Eventually, she told a teacher. The teacher contacted police. When officers searched the apartment, they found the doll. Inside it was Fan Man-yee's skull. Police were stunned by the condition of the apartment. Evidence showed that Fan had been held there for an extended period. This was not a sudden act of violence. This was prolonged captivity. The three men were arrested. However, because of the state of Fan's remains, medical examiners could not determine an exact cause of death, and because of that, the court could not convict them of murder. They were convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to life imprisonment. The public reaction in Hong Kong was fury and disbelief. Because this case exposed something terrifying. Fan had not disappeared quietly. She suffered loudly, and no one intervened. What makes this case sit so heavily with me is how invisible Fan became. She was alive for weeks inside that apartment. People heard things, people came over, people saw signs, and because of who she was, a woman struggling with addiction, living on the margins, no one thought to check. It makes you realize how society decides who is worth noticing. Fan did not vanish into thin air. She was right there, and the world walked past her. Fan Man-yee's case is remembered not only for its brutality, but for how long it went on without interruption. This was the case that Hong Kong would never forget. This case was reconstructed using Hong Kong court records, investigative journalism, and documented trial coverage detailing the timeline and discovery of the crime. And that brings us to the end of today's case. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to a case this heavy. If you want more true crime stories like this every day, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on your post notifications so you never miss a case. I post every single day, and Sundays are always for the deepest dives. I'll see you in the next one.